Hi, my name is William Bortz, and I'm going to be sharing 5 things that I believe every poet needs in order to create beautiful and evocative poetry. The first thing is investing in the world around you. That looks different for a lot of people. For me, it looks like getting out of the house. I'm definitely more of an introvert. So it means getting out, walking in my community, stopping at a local shop, talking with the people there, talking with the owners, getting to know people, saying hi to the stranger in the coffee shop or walking the dog on the street, just getting out into my immediate surroundings and interacting with the world around me. I think there's a lot of reasons why this is important in writing, but also in just our everyday life. I mean, as a poet, as a writer, those things are always a little, they overlap a bit. So for me, it helps me get out, see new perspectives, see the world in a really different way, just get out of my head. I think that's a really important practice. The second thing, and another thing I'm a really big believer in, is just spending time in silence. I think we've all been there at the end of a day when we're trying to go to sleep and your mind is just racing, right? It's just going over all the things that happened throughout the day or for the past few days, just unable to kind of unravel what you're feeling, what you've experienced. And I think spending time in silence really helps us do that. It helps us unravel a lot of things, figure out why we feel a certain way, really digest what we've seen, what we experienced that day or for the past week or whatever amount of time, but just giving ourselves space to get a grasp on what we've experienced, what we've seen, what we've felt, what we've heard. I think it's really important, and it really allows us then to take those ideas, take those thoughts, and instead of wrestling with them when we're trying to sleep, able to unravel them on a page, and get them into a poem, get them into a story, get them into something that we can walk through with the reader. The next thing is honesty. I think we've all been able to connect with a piece of art, whether it's a movie or a song or a piece of writing or video, whatever it may be. And I think a lot of what that connection is it's because that piece of art comes from a place of honesty, right? It kind of allows us to walk through and see kind of the heart in that piece of art, and that begins with that person creating it and creating it from a place of honesty. There's a great poem that goes along the lines of, there's someone out there with a wound in the same shape of your words. And I think that's incredibly true and incredibly profound to think that someone out there is, in a sense, waiting for what you have to say. What you have to say is something they need to hear. And in order for that relationship, that exchange to happen, it has to come from a place of honesty. You know, whatever theme you're kind of diving into, it really needs to come from an honest place in order to have that relationship between the reader and that piece of work. And next, I think practice is a big one. I personally always think about writing in kind of through a lens of basketball. I'm a big basketball fan, and I think about watching a basketball game and getting my favorite writer's book as kind of the same thing. You know, I sit down, I read the book, and I'm like, how did they make it seem so easy? Why is it so seamless? In the same way, I sit down and I watch a basketball game, and these athletes are just showcasing this extreme level of athleticism, and it just makes it look easy. And to me, that's the 1%. What we're seeing is a rough of the finished product, right? And we don't see the other 99%, athletes in the gym waking up at 4 a.m. And I'm not saying that's, to write, you gotta wake up at 4 a.m., but I think practice goes a long way. Whether that's practicing the form, obviously reading, writing, and writing with the knowledge that 100% of what we write isn't gonna be the thing. Like in past books I've done, I ended up with 400 poems, and I ended up axing 300 of those, and a lot of them still just sit in a sort of junk folder, and I revisit it from time to time and see what's there, but for the most part, we just have to be okay with knowing that a lot of what we do is to get better, right? Like the first poem we write is not going to be our best work. We're going to continuously grow and get better at our craft as we write, as we read, as we spend time on the thing we like doing. And the last thing is appreciation. We spend so much of our lives doing something mundane, something monotonous, right? You know, going to work, going to bed at the same time, eating similar foods, going to the same grocery store. I mean, so much of our life is spent in the same places, in our house, in our office, in our car, whatever. And being able to look around and see new things is an incredible experience. It's really important. I think we've all maybe experienced this thing where we drive down the same road, you know, every day, 1,000 times, whatever it may be, and then one day we walk down it instead. And you notice different things about it, right? You notice like this really cool looking house, you notice this really colorful, vibrant bush, you notice other aspects that you just don't see while you're driving. And of course, you know, when you're driving, you probably shouldn't be looking around at houses and colorful bushes, but the idea is that our brain just gets so used to this pathway that we don't think of looking outside of it. And so like when we're at the grocery store, when we're at home, we're just in the zone, right? Whatever zone that is. And it's important to, while we're spending like 80% of our life doing the same thing, really be intentional about noticing things we have not seen before, things that we can relate to, that we can, again, invest in, things that inform our perspective. You know, because a big chunk of our lives being spent that way, it's worthwhile going outside of your comfort zone to start to notice and appreciate these things. And it lets us write with a greater sense of joy, a greater sense of appreciation, and build a stronger connection to the world around us. Thank you.